avid sapphire steel enjoyers or anyone who for some reason clicks on my videos. Recently I've been testing a different version of the Kiwi Birds that I have on the other screen. Um, yeah, it's not really like majorly different. It's only minor changes, and it was just really to see the benefits of having it. I did run a. It's basically we added the Dwarf Mine package in, so we had to remove some stuff, and we tried out some new cards. I did try a Dwarf's Mine package one against Diego, the gentleman who won Toronto. I'll admit that deck I made took me about 2 minutes to make, and I didn't really think about it much. So it was still fun. I think we went 1-2, and it was about 2 in the morning for me, so there was quite a lot of misplays as well. And I kind of wrote it off. I said we don't really need the Dwarf Mines package. And Justin, if Justin watches my videos, he's never been a fan of Dwarf Mines. Doesn't really like the card too much. And that's fair. It seems quite an expensive card. You pay 2 ink to play it. It only has 6 health, and then it's 2 to move it, and you can only do that once per turn. And it is quite expensive for what it is. It's a card for me personally that underperforms a large amount of the time, and then overperforms like in the weirdest spots where you've got like a stalemate, or like to take out a Diablo, or like a shift line, or like just to do 2 extra damage to remove something, like maybe pop a Lawrence or pop a Pluto. So for me, it's a card that underperforms a lot, so you ink it a lot, and then for some reason it will just have these moments where it's like the reason you won the game was that you had a Dwarf's Mine out, and you could ping for 1 to 2 damage, and you're gaining 1 law a turn. So yeah, I've been excited to try it out. The main difference between this list and the normal Kiwi list is that we cut the Robin Hood package. We've instead used Happy because we need dwarfs, and we also need a 1 drop. So we have actually playing 4 of him, which is crazy because the card's not that good to play 4 of. But then again, you wouldn't want anything else in that slot because you need 8 1 drops. So it's fine. And then we put some 7 Dwarfs Mines in. We did have 4 when we started, but then I just felt I was getting tramped on by what's it called, Ruby Sapphire, which you still have to think about. We don't really have the recursion that as Amber Steel Dock Mines does. So I did 4 Dwarfs Mines and 2 McDuck Manors, but I was like I'll split it because then that's 3, the same that I play on my standard build. And then taking out the big Robin Hoods, we put a Lawrence in, which is really cool. At the start, like I said, I even had more space to put another Baymax in. It was really good, but then I played this in the mirrors. I played this and tested it quite a bit, and I was missing Scrooge quite a bit. So he's been the latest change that we put Scrooge back into the deck. Before that, it was a 2-liner, which is anyone who loves their Dreamborn like analytics or how they lay cards out on Dreamborn. Like 2-liners are just the nicest looking decks. It's like Ed's and NA Continental's list is like 2 lines on Dreamborn rather than this very awkward 3. Um, but yeah, I'm not going to make changes just to make it look prettier on Dreamboard. So we had the Scrooges back in. I mean, even in the mirror, like I'm at the point as well. I'm actually thinking about the mirror a bit more. Like Scrooge is just such a power play to put down on 4, even into other dock decks as well. And when I say mirror, I'm going to be a bit more expanded on that and say like other dock decks. So of course, Amber Steel docks, Purple Steel docks as well, dock decks as well, and anything else you can think of that's using dock right now. I've seen like Ruby lists. I put a meme out about Ruby Steel dock decks being terrible, and someone like posted a bunch that won, and I was like, oh, okay, so maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. And of course, my understandings right now is you put dock into any deck and you can probably make it work. I think so. I think you just got the interesting benefits of that color. So we get Alice and Baymax, and Ruby will get their Sisus and Mauis and Brawls or whatever they end up using. And of course, Amber Steel right now probably performs the best out of all of them. But it can't be understated that other colors using the card do bad. But yeah, we found out in the mirror and even into those other dock decks that it's just like the ability to play a Scrooge of 5/5 on turn 4. So into the mirror, like if you play a Scrooge down, everything I've got kind of trades up poorly with that. Maybe the Pluto would be fine, but yeah, not great. It's not beneficial. Like you just hit it once and the attack bonus goes away. Into the other decks, like a Fox, that's going to be it's going to trade nicely with that. So if it's turned sideways, they need a fox and a crab, or they need to crab buff something. They need to do a lot more work to remove him. And into Amber Steel as well, like they're going to have to go 5 wide Singer Strength, or just let it continuously trade quite nicely into the board. And with Baymax and Cogsworth out, like if you're able to do sort of Mickey, Calhoun, John Silver, Pete, any of the 3 drops because they're all great. Scrooge into Cogsworth, like your board is just huge and you just trade up perfectly, and their steel removal is quite weak. So yeah, he's just been really, really strong. And Lawrence as well. I did have him as a 4x, but because I wanted the room for the Scrooge, and he's sort of been added in on top because of the lack of the Robin Hood. I didn't mind dropping 1 to put a Scrooge back in. We also, like I said, we had three Baymaxes and we dropped one, so we could put a Scrooge back in. But these two as a combo, I guess it's worth noting after saying that, like it is very hard because Lawrence in Amber Steel is quite a big threat because it trades and then it Rapunzel heals and you get like a bunch of good card value for it. So like Lawrence and Rapunzel are probably the best cards to pair together. Of course, we don't have that, and even in the purple steel one, they can reset it with the snake or the fox, so they've got now bounce targets. Like a damaged Lawrence is a good bounce target because you need to replay it. They can also use Bell as well. We only really have Baymax for it, so it's pretty good, and I kind of wanted to maximize on Baymaxes. But to be honest with you, Lawrence doing one threatening thing, and then you know, he's just going to quest for two or whatever, or single strength. It's not the worst in the world. Or move to a mine and do one damage. Like they tend to, they can't ignore it because it will be gaining two lore a turn. They still have to finish it off. So he's sort of fine even without those bonuses of Rapunzel or like snake bounces. He does alright. He's still a pretty decent body. Into red decks as well. I really like to play him on the curve against a Sisu because you can get to a point where you only have like two cards in hand. It might be something in a dock, and that means the Sisu won't even remove it when it runs into it. So that's just really amazing. Sorry, I'm quite under the weather today, but I really wanted to get this video out. Um, yeah, he's been really, really good. I think Lawrence never was the card that I would have said would be bad. I think even into the standard Kiwi build, if you could find room for him, I don't think he's bad. If you're not a Scrooge enjoyer and you just keep thinking the deck bricks, please put him back in. I don't think he's bad. He's been performing quite well for me in this list. And the only other real major difference is, so we've talked about the Robin Hood package being removed, and Scrooge is sort of really good and using the Lawrence card. We don't have Baboom in here. I think that's fine. Actually, someone who was playing this that I talked to online, they sort of had a go at this first, which is really cool to see like everyone trying to have a go at these Alice Dock Blue Steel decks, the Kiwi decks. Said you don't really need Baboom because it's kind of awkward removal. Now that you have the mine, you have that 2 ping damage for Diablo, which I do completely agree for Diablo. I think it's really good, but sometimes, if you're on the draw and there's going to be a Cindy that's going to pop off and remove anything that you play, it's better to just boom it and then continue with your life. And also, if they get a shift line like a Robin Hood or even that Cindy getting a shift line is kind of rough. So the reason why Baboom, if anyone questions why Baboom sticks around on the list, is just if there's something really awkward that we just need to remove as a 2 drop, or sorry, that has 2 health, it's just there for that. Cutting off the Robin Hood shift lines, morphs, Diablos, of course, are the big ones. But in bigger events and especially in store champs, you never really know what people are playing. So like, if they're going to do a Queen shift line or something like that, you basically have to shut that off. Yeah, it's just good to have 2 damage wherever you need it in the deck. And later on in the game, you might need to ping something for 2 just to stop them having lethal on a turn. So, of course, because this version doesn't have the Dock Mines where you can do that quite naturally, we've just kept the 2 Babooms in here. But the Dock Mines has been pretty good for that. It's kind of, we have 8 Knights as well. Because it's Knights. I always thought it was Dwarfs that had to move there, but it's not, it's Knights. So yeah, you can do some really fun plays with it. It's Dwarf's Mines, I quite enjoy the card, but I also, like I say, it underperforms quite a lot of the time and does a really good job. Um, so in these stalemates against, the reason why I wanted to really test this and put this through the reins was, I feel this version is better into, say, Amber Steel's Dock Mines, because now you're using Dock Mines, you're using all the tools they are, and you've got your Cogturf and Baymaxes whilst they have their Cindy's and Rapunzels. So you're kind of meeting them on a level playing ground. As long as they don't just like triple daisy you to begin with, you're probably going to have a fair game where it's a lot of intricacy on moving things to the mines and using them to the max like value. We even use things like Pluto that they also use, but we use it at 4x, and not all their lists do. But yeah, you'll find most games into theirs is like 1 drop, and then it will be you like match Calhoun's. So they'll probably Cindy and you play a Mickey because you do. Then you'll play your Calhoun, and then you'll probably try and both Pete on 3 and sing that strength for the next turn to take out the Calhoun or whatever. And then you just keep growing from there and growing these boards, and then you like play docks. I played a lot of it in testing, and it's really, for me, it's anyone out there who's not enjoying dock decks and like where the meta's at. This for me is the most enjoyable. I've had Lorcana. I really love these aggro. I really love these low to the ground decks. Like sometimes I'm pushing myself to win a game with only 4 ink, just because I quite enjoy these such really quick little aggro games where it's all about the tempo and it's not about it's about board control, but it's not about board wiping. It's about like just being able to get over the finish line before them, and this like quick maths on the lore and stuff like that. I think it's really cool. And I'm really enjoying it. And I'm really enjoying using this version because it means I'm not just doing Amber Steel Dock Mine mirrors all day. I'm doing my own Sapphire Steel build. So yeah, I think it's got some really good potential into Steel Song. But the issue is Ruby Sapphire just never really goes away. It never sort of goes away, does it? It's still there, and I think Doc Mines, in my opinion, is not the best card into Amber Steel. I'm probably going to be proven wrong. Um, so I think personally, I'm still going to go you going back to this list because you can later on in the game, you've got these four Robin Hoods, which aren't that great into Ruby Sapphire, but it's just being in that later game where you can just keep throwing down bigger health characters. Lawrence probably might even be performing a little bit better there for you, but this is sort of I stick with what I know sort of thing. But this has so much potential. I'm going to keep trying to test it as well. Um, Especially, yeah, it just feels like it's underperforming into the Ruby matchups a little bit too much for me. Into Ruby Amethyst actually, it's pretty decent actually. I don't mind it there, but into Ruby Sapphire, I don't know why. It's the only real difference is between is the Robin Hood and the Lawrence there, but it just feels like it underperforms there, and it's not performing well enough for me to go and bring that to something and then just lose because I played a Ruby Sapphire. Whereas for this deck, I noticed how to do that matchup quite well. But yeah, minor changes. I think both are really good. And I will admit, with the Alice and Seven Dwarfs list, this deck is down to, if we look at Lorcana, about $163, which it was really great when I built it because I didn't keep the money thing in mind. But I know a lot have been asking for like budgeted versions and stuff, and I did post a picture about a budgeted one. I would say that was me. For anyone don't hard stick to that list. That was me trying to keep it under $100. I'd say definitely this is a budgeted version. You've got no beasts, no what are they called, Robin Hoods or anything like that. I think the most expensive card is probably the Baymax, which is still only a tenner, and then Calhoun's. And if you're a steel player, you tend to have these things playset as well. And Alice has always been cheap; she's never going up for some reason. Which I was hoping that I'd spike her just because I thought it'd be a really cool thing to tell everyone that I made Alice go up in price. That I didn't. So yeah, definitely is also a budgeted version, but I don't see why this wouldn't win a store champs as well. Definitely worth playing and trying out if you don't have the Robin Hoods and you don't have the Beasts.